You start down here by the street on the far end of the garden with flowers and artichokes this year, and a row of cantaloupes and watermelon next to the grapes. Then Suffolk red grapes, 2 rows of peas, himbo top raspberries. Let's see, these are Blue Lake bush beans, 2 60-foot rows. We've never grown beans before. Okay, so Concord grapes, carrots, radishes, beets, parsnips, turnips, leeks, lots of different kinds of peppers, ever-bearing blackberries with some Swiss chard and lima beans at the tail end. These are ever-bearing autumn Britain raspberries, and at the back end of the row, Willamette raspberries. Lots of different kinds of paste tomatoes. This whole row is ever-bearing Polana raspberry. These are all slicers. Well, this is a sweet 100 right here in the front, snack tomato. And we have a sweetie tomato back in there a ways on the other side. Snack tomato, just to see what the difference is. But these are lots of different kinds of slicers. Then we have a whole row of slicing cucumbers, and the back half is all pickling cucumbers. 3 rows of seascape strawberries, a row of Norland red, healthy looking potatoes. First section right here are Yukon Gold. Middle section is Pontiac red, and the back section is russet potatoes. Then we have Canby thornless raspberries that produce in July only. These irises are golden anniversary irises made for Peggy's mother's grandparents in Albion and Oakley area. Then we have Titan raspberries from the ranch that produce in July only. This is where the zucchini and squash will go. And we have a whole new row of Triple Crown blackberries. These are some transplants from just cuttings I took and made transplants from cuttings, and then the rest are dug roots from around the yard. Back behind the old shop, we have 2 40, 50, or 40-foot rows of broccoli, a row of heritage raspberries back here. They're slow to come up, but they're ever-bearing, just slow to come up. And some Bristol black raspberries in the back. And our new hive of bees sitting there. Looks like they're pretty active this morning. You hear them? It's time to weed the broccoli. The white top is pretty evasive. Some of these blackberry transplants were pretty big, but I might lose a couple, but the rest should survive just fine. We've had some perfect transplanting weather the last 3 or 4 weeks. Then we have Patrick's rhubarb. Jewel black raspberries here on the corner. And back down toward the side street, we have our Joan J. raspberries coming up. We sold most of these this year, the established ones. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 maybe. Still standing with their canes last year. The rest of all of those through here were dug out and sold. These are our original 10 plantings of the himbo top raspberries, which is what we planted a 60-foot double row of over here between the grapes 2.5 weeks ago. Then we have some okra, 2 different kinds of okra, some dwarf and regular okra. The back half is all fennel, not fennel, dill. That back half back there, those 2 flat rows are double plantings of dill. Then you see some fennel here, right there, and some kohlrabi here. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of corn planted in a 20-foot row at the same time, and they all ripen differently. Then we have some funny looking pumpkins. They're called red warty thing. That might be fun to grow. We just planted those yesterday. And some small sweet sugar pie pumpkins, some jack-o'-lanterns, some giant moons, and some Dill's giant pumpkins. From here down it shades too rocky and shady from this pine tree. So we don't plant anything there, but I should plant grass or something to make it look nicer. Boy, the grapes are really going at it. We have really pretty clusters of grapes starting. All down the row, everything is very healthy looking. We planted these himbo tops from the 100-foot row we have over at Fackrell's on Colleen, and the cows had eaten all the tops off. And you can't even tell we took any of these plants. There's so many plants over there. We still have some flame seedless and an emerald. This is a big flame here, this big huge flame grape. Then this little emerald right here, still growing. After this season we'll take it out. I can't remember if this first one is green emerald or flame, but the last 2 are flame seedless, big seedless grapes. You can see some grape clusters clear up there. Yeah, so I had to clean up the bottom. The bottom of this plant was a mess. There were 40 different stalks coming out of it. So I'm not sure how I'll manage that. I think all this top will come off unless I can get some cordons, some stems to shoot out here and go both ways for this cordon wire. This top side really needs to come off. Same with this one. It's just too high in the air, and there's nothing growing down below yet. And there's a Concord grape right next to it. So the Concord will be replacing this one, and it'll come out. Same with this little guy right here. You see a little Concord coming up there alongside the great big grapevine, because that will eventually come out. And then we'll have our Concord juice tasting more like grape juice than some of this other table grape juice we've been making. The Concords are fun because they have a red tip on their leaf structure. Boy, you can sure tell the difference. So he gave me a few Concords to plant. I mean, I bought them, but the end one down there has a green leaf tipping structure, and now we know it's not Concord, so I'm not sure what variety it is. You can see raspberries forming right there. It won't be long before, another month before they're ripe. Okay, so we're going to go back around the side of the shop. This is the piano shop toward the house. You see my new trailer. I kept that new trailer, the white one I had for a year, and just sold this one. or sold it last week and bought this one so that we don't wear out the axles and wear out the inside. It just gets too much abuse from moving pianos. We have a YouTube video that I'm doing. There's 6. It goes from 1 gallon, gallon and a half, 3 gallons, probably 5-6 gallons in the bigger pots. The big one's 22 inches across. Each has their cage, and we're growing bush. It's called Better Bush tomatoes. And we'll see how the little gallon does compared to the big one. Of course, I doubt it'll do very much, but we got to keep it watered. That's the main thing. That poor little gallon pot won't hold too much water compared to the size of the plant. Our greenhouse did real well this year. Last night we cleaned our section out. Charlene is still using the her solo cup section here. But the back section is all cleared out. I have a lemon tree, a Myers lemon tree, but there's nothing left on the shelves. That's it. We gave all of our leftover plants after the two sections of sales we did. The last one ended last night at 5, and then we gave all the rest of our plants to the African gardeners over at Global Gardens. I think we can leave the door open. Otherwise it gets to be 150 degrees in there. Okay, back in our yard. The pear trees are doing great. There's no cherries on the cherry tree because they were frosted too many times. We have some peach trees here that we're going to be planting. And we have apple trees we haven't pruned yet. And these black raspberries, there's just going to be a ton of fruit on these the next month. We have some blackberries here, and also prelude raspberries, and they'll be ripe in a month. They're just loaded with fruit. Look at all the fruit back here, and the bees are real busy this morning. Then we have a peach tree right here that we planted 2 years ago, and another peach tree just like it that we planted at the correct spacing right here. It's hard to see. You can see the top of it right there. There's a peach tree growing up in the middle of all of this. So we started cleaning this up this year. We pulled all of the blackberries out that we could tell were the proper triple crown blackberries off of the end right here. And there's no plants back in there hardly at all. Only black raspberry stars. We took all the blackberries out and transplanted them out in the garden and sold some. We have an apricot tree someone gave us, but I'm afraid it's a natural tree and it would just become enormous. We've had it for a couple of years and I'm not sure what to do with it, but that's this little tree right here. It's very healthy. It has the stalk is over 1 inch thick. But I haven't decided if I wanted to plant it or try to transplant it onto a semi-dwarf rootstock first. These apples are pretty loaded. They look nice. And you can see 3 cherries right there. There's 2 cherries right there. But there's a few cherries, but the main crop is frozen off. There's, you can't hardly look without looking very closely. You can't see that there are any cherries at all because of the frosts.